Hello and welcome into the Bork Report here on Bork News Network. As always, I'm your host, Bork, and today got a really fun episode. Going to be talking a little bit more Pokemon. It's pretty much all I've been able to play this week, this month, pretty much for that matter, and because of that, it's all I really want to talk about. And with the Pokemon Presents coming up next week, really looking forward to that. Going to be talking a little bit about that today in my show. Pretty much just predicting what I think is going to happen, what I think, is a lock to be seen at the Pokemon Presents, what I think is maybe more of a lengthy or a long shot to happen, and really just kind of walking through those things as I talk through today. I'm going to be doing it in a bingo card fashion because on Thursday I'll plan to watch and record that and see how I do with my predictions today, and you'll be able to come back on Thursday to see as well, to see how I stacked up against myself with this bingo. I think I'll get at least a couple bingos, but I don't know if I'll get the blackout. I think there's some things that are just not going to happen straight up. But, we'll see. Maybe it's going to be a loaded Pokemon Presents. Maybe it'll be a little bit lighter. I don't know. There are a few things I know will happen, and I'll be happy to talk through those today. Outside of that, like I said, I will be posting on Thursday next week. So that'll be something you guys will see a little bit outside of the normal schedule, but then Friday, I'll still plan on doing an episode on Saturday, and maybe I'll talk about Pokemon a little bit, but hopefully I'll get to a couple other things as far as some other stuff that I've wanted to talk about and just has not happened because Pokemon's gotten in the way in this month. So that's kind of the show today. Going to be talking about predictions and then jumping off. I've got some things to do tonight. It is Friday. I normally record on Saturdays. I'm so busy this weekend that I figured let's get the recording in right now while I can and kind of go from there. So with that being said, I'll jump into my screen share here, get the browser up with my bingo card. And like I said, I've already filled this out, but going to be flipping through each section and kind of discussing how likely I think that actually is. Most of these I think should happen or something adjacent will happen, but we'll see how accurate I am with my 24 predictions. Gave myself a free space still. So yeah, kind of jumping into it here. I'll just kind of flip one by one. I think the first thing that we need to discuss and the first thing that everyone knows is going to be shown is some more Legends ZA. Specifically, there's going to be a trailer. I assume some gameplay in the trailer, but outside of that, going to be seeing a little bit more of the game. There's a couple other predictions on here related to Legends ZA. This one is just the high level. We're going to see a trailer. Guaranteed to happen. It's a lock. No doubt about it. So they haven't shown us anything since last year on Pokemon Day when they teased it. So I imagine they're going to come with some heat on this and maybe give us a 2, 3, 4 minute trailer followed by some gameplay and discussion about what we saw. So next thing I've got, it's almost a guarantee at this point. They talk about it every Pokemon Day, I feel like, since it's released. Cafe Remix, one of the mobile apps, also downloadable on the Switch. I assume there will be some sort of new Pokemon or new event that's coming up that people need to jump in for. I don't know what that's going to look like, and I personally don't play Cafe Remix to care, but I think that there's a pretty dedicated audience just shown by the fact that they keep on bringing this game up. The fact that it has not died yet shows that there's probably a pretty solid player base, and it's a pretty much a home run at this point for a Pokemon Presents that we're going to get some Cafe Remix. I think something with the new anime will be shown. I don't know what that is yet, or what that looks like. I think that there will be either an entirely new series announced, whether it's a mini series or another, adaptation, kind of going off of Horizons and kind of the main series. I'm not sure. I'm not a big anime guy, so I may not be as in the loop, but I can guarantee you that the Pokemon Company is looking at that and kind of what's next for them. And we'll see something to that extent coming up in this Pokemon Presents. This one's about TCG Pocket and not just the game itself, but I think specifically someone's going to come on screen and tell us how many people have downloaded the game or how many times it's been downloaded since launch. I think they want to keep the momentum rolling. I think they want to do something special. So I think they're going to come on and say, hey, it's been downloaded 70 million times or 50 million or whatever the number is. And with that, they might announce some sort of, check the app after this presentation and you'll get, 120 hourglass, pack hourglasses to open a 10 pack or something like that. So I think they'll do something along those lines. Specifically on this call out, I think that someone's going to say how many times it's been downloaded. I think that's so going to happen. Last one on the top row here is Pokemon Masters EX. I think they announced some new sync pairs for this game. I don't play this game. I think I downloaded a little bit and it's decent, but that was way back at launch, and I know it's changed a ton since then. I think specifically they're just going to announce some new sync pairs, say that, hey, it's been around for, I don't know, it's been like 5 or 6 years now, and just kind of say thank you to all the players. Here's some new sync pairs. Here's when they release. Log in now and get a bonus. So I don't think it's going to go crazy. I think they always talk about it every time there's a Pokemon Presents, same as Cafe Remix, and for good reason, but not going to go too in depth as far as the game because I don't know much about it. All right, I think the next thing we're going to see is just some news about the recently released Scarlet and Violet raid dens. I think they end on the 28th, so they'll probably do a quick little announcement saying, if you haven't already, get in and do some of the Walking Wake and Iron Leaves raid dens before they're gone. And I think that that's probably guaranteed to happen, considering that the raid dens either end later on that day or the next day after the Pokemon Presents. So that's what I think we're going to see. If not that, then I think that they'll announce the next set of special raids, whether it's just a basic, here's a bunch of grass type Pokemon that are going to be in raid dens, or here's a bunch of this. I think they'll do some sort of announcement with raid dens. I'm calling my shot specifically that they're going to remind us on the Walking Wake and Iron Leaves before they go. So that's kind of my shot there. I don't know if that's a stupid shot. It may be too much of a layup, but that's what I think we're going to see there. Next up, I do have another one here. Let's flip it over. And I think that it's just continuing on the mobile app side of things. I think that they'll talk a little bit about Pokemon Sleep updates, maybe the next legendary Pokemon that they're going to be releasing into the game. I know last year they did like Suicune, Raikou, Entei. I don't know if they've actually released all 3 of those yet, but maybe that's what we get here. Just kind of some minor updates on Pokemon Sleep for Pokemon Day. Nothing crazy. Jumping into the next one. This one, I'm not sure whether or not we're going to see it. It's really kind of up in the air as far as what I expect to see here, but Pokemon Go news in general might be a little bit sketchy because I've heard and seen reports that Niantic might be selling off their gaming division to Scopely, a Saudi Arabia-based company. I know that Scopely does like Monopoly Go and a bunch of apps. I've got a lot to say about Scopely in general and how much I dislike their company. But outside of that, with that news, out on the internet right now, I don't know if they're going to announce much for Pokemon Go, or maybe they'll just ignore the news and give us Pokemon Go updates anyways. Who knows? That's my next prediction. Just makes sense with how big the app is, how big of a community it's grown over the past 8 years. I don't see a world where they ignore it completely, but I'm also like, maybe if there's any time to ignore it, it might be this presentation. Pokemon Worlds updates. I think the next 2 Pokemon Worlds are in California. I think it's like Anaheim and I don't know if it's San Francisco or what it is, but the next 2 I think are in California, and I think that they'll probably bring those up in the presentation. And I know last year or whenever it was in Hawaii, they brought that up and talked about the wildfires there. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull a similar note on the Worlds for this one. Obviously, with the California wildfires that have been going on, that could definitely be something that we see pulled up there. So Pokemon Worlds updates, next prediction. This one might be a little bit lengthy or a long shot, but I don't think it's that crazy. I think in the Legends ZA trailer, we see a new Mega Evolution for some sort of Pokemon, whether that be a Flygon or whether that be if there's like a Zygarde form that we haven't seen. I think there's some sort of new Mega Evolution shown off in either in the trailer or in some sort of gameplay. We'll see something of that sort. So I think that's probably going to happen, but maybe it's a little bit more lengthy. I just think this is a lock. This one is kind of a subset of this one being a lock, and that's kind of my next guess there. If they don't show us anything ZA, then I'm screwed on this board. Next one, we get a Gen 10 teaser. I know that might seem crazy. I don't know how crazy it actually seems to me because I feel like they did the same thing with Gen 9 and it was just kind of like out of the blue. No one really expected them to announce Gen 9 and Legends Arceus when they did. I think they were both very surprising. But nonetheless, Gen 10 is, going to be coming out on the Switch 2 at some point. Maybe even backwards compatible with the Switch 1 if Pokemon hates consumers and wants their games to keep running like crap. Maybe it'll be a Switch 1 game as well, but at the very least, I think they might tease a little something, maybe give us the names or maybe give us the starters or something along those lines with Gen 10. This one is probably one of the bigger long shots I have on here, probably with the next one that I've got to talk about, and that is going to be Gens 1 through 3 coming to Switch and Switch 2, whether that's through NSO, whether that's through its own dedicated cartridge. I don't know yet, but if you saw my rant last week, you'll know that I really, really want this, and I think that the old games coming to the Switch is far more important than Legends ZA or Gen 10. I think that is a crazy thing to have not done by now. I'm not going to do the rant again, but Pokemon Company, for the love of God, you are missing out on so much money. So for the love of God, please consider putting those on the Switch in some capacity. People will pay for them. I will pay for them. And we won't have to deal with crazy resale prices in the current market. So that is another prediction. I don't think it's going to happen, but a happy brook is a good brook. So maybe it will. I don't know. We'll see. But that's my next prediction on that front. And we'll jump to the second half of this board here as well. So for the second half of the board, jumping into the next thing is just any sort of mention to the Nintendo Switch 2. It's kind of a tricky situation with Nintendo announcing the console, but then saying that they're doing the full presentation 2 months later. So April 2nd, we'll see the Nintendo Switch 2 presentation. I don't really know where companies stand like Pokemon and other Nintendo properties as far as being able to mention the Switch 2 yet, or if they need to wait until that Switch 2 showcase happens on the 2nd. So I think that there's a slight chance that it can be mentioned at least in some capacity, but I don't think that they'll be mentioning any games guaranteed to come to that, or if something's coming to the Switch 1 and 2, or just the 2, or just the 1. I think that there will be some mention of it, or they'll go the generic route and say the Nintendo Switch family of systems and kind of bore us with that, and then kind of leave us all questioning, what does that necessarily mean? What do we expect from some of these games? Are they coming to both, just one, the other? I think there's a lot of confusion still. April 2nd can't come fast enough, but I think that there's some mention of the Nintendo Switch 2, at least in some capacity here. This one, another one with Legends ZA, I think that there's a pretty good chance that we get a release date for this game, and that'll be really telling for my last point of the Nintendo Switch 2. Hello, kitty. Okay. Get down. Oh my goodness. I love them. So with the Nintendo Switch 2 and whether or not they can mention it, I think that the release date for Legends ZA might be very telling as far as whether it's going to be a Switch 1 game, a Switch 2 game, or both. I think if we see it releasing past the end of May, it's going to be coming to the Switch 2 as its own specific version. I still think no matter what, it's going to be cross-gen, but I think if it's a April or May release, then it is going to be Switch 1 exclusive, and maybe there'll be an up-res on the Switch 2. We still don't know anything about if it runs better on the Switch 2 or if Switch games in general will run better, but I think that's certainly something to look out for, is if it's before the end of May, I think it's a Switch 1 exclusive. If it's after, I think it might be coming to both. And with that, the release date brings me to my next point, is a Legends ZA Switch 1 exclusive. I think that there's a chance they mention that it is only coming to the Nintendo Switch. It will not be next gen. I think that would kind of kill some momentum with it, but I think they also want to set expectations because Nintendo fans and Pokemon fans are notorious for spreading rumors, lies, and just kind of blatantly spreading misinformation because they want to be talked about or they want to get attention. I think that there's a ton of fans that do that. I'm not going to be one of those, but I think that there's a chance that Nintendo and the Pokemon Company is going to come out and just say, hey, this is coming to the Nintendo Switch, not the Switch 2. Maybe it'll be up-resed, but we'll see what kind of comes from that. I think they announced a new expansion for TCG Pocket. I think that there's, kind of like the Mythical Islands for the Genetic Apex. I think that they do a single expansion for the current gen with the Gen 4 Pokemon, the Dialga and Palkia packs. I think they could be doing a Giratina special with like a full art, or they could do an Arceus special with the full art Arceus and all of the, immersives and things along those lines. So I think there will be a new expansion announced. I don't know if they'll go to the next set altogether, and I think that's another one of my points here. But we'll see what that comes. I feel like we haven't gotten Pokemon movies in a while. I know they did the Zarude and Celebi movie a couple years ago. I don't know if they've announced anything movie related at one of these showcases ever, but we obviously have also had Detective Pikachu in the past, and I've heard that there's supposed to be a sequel for that, but I don't know if it's in development hell or what the deal is there. I think we get some sort of news, whether it's a new anime movie, whether it's a new, movie like they did with the Mewtwo Returns on Netflix. I think there's some sort of movie news coming at this presentation as well. So we'll see what goes on there, but something to look out for, something I think we might see. It just depends on how long this presentation truly is. All right, next up, we've got the next set. As I mentioned, I don't know if they'll announce the next set, but I think they might tease us a release date for when the next set is expected. I think that based on some data mines and leaks, it's apparently expected at the end of April, maybe early May. I can't remember, but I think that there could be mention like, hey, we've got a new expansion coming tomorrow, end of February, and then our next full set will release at the end of March, end of April, and here's the date. I don't know if they necessarily give us what that next set is yet, but I do think that there's a chance that they at least tease the date for it here. Speaking on the Pokemon Go news, I think it's, kind of middling as far as if I expect it to be there, but I think if they do announce some Pokemon Go news, it'll probably be something about the community day, whatever the next one is, or some sort of special event. I think I'm calling my shot specifically on a community day announcement as far as what we can expect in March, April, or May for what that community day will be. I almost completely forgot about Unite when making this list, and then I remember that exists. I used to play it a lot. I think that they announced some new Pokemon. I think it's a pretty big game as far as being free to play on the Switch and mobile devices, so I think it'd be dumb for them to not acknowledge it in any sort of fashion. I think with the recently released Pokemon Home rewards for Dex completions, I think they might mention that here, that you can get a shiny, Manaphy, a shiny Keldeo, a shiny Meltan by completing specific Dexes on your Nintendo Switch games. That's why I've been playing so much Pokemon this month, is I've been playing a lot of Sword and Shield. I've been playing Brilliant Diamond. To complete those Dexes, I want to get these Mythicals and just be done with those. And I need to do the Scarlet and Violet one as well to get my shiny Meloetta. So that is all stuff that I've been playing this month. That's why February has been the Pokemon month for me. But I do think that they might mention that, since that's been pretty big news. They've never really released shiny Mythicals before. And now with Pokemon Home, them being able to do that, I think they might bring it up. This one is probably one of the longest shots besides like Gens 1 through 3 coming to the Switch and Switch 2. Black and White remakes announced. I think that there's no doubt that those are the next to be remade. Just based on Gen 4 being remade. Gen 3 was on the 3DS. Gen 2 was on the DS. I think that that's kind of the next realistic evolution. I don't think it gets announced here. But Pokemon Day, we could see some big things happening. We could see at least a title screen showed on the presentation. Maybe it's Black and White, I'm not even going to speculate on names, but just like remakes of Black and White or Black and White 2 that come to the Switch. Maybe they do a combo of both. Who knows? We'll see. I think there's a chance they could come out of left field and announce a brand new game that we have not heard about before. And I'm specifically talking about a non-main series game. I think that something outside of the main series that is kind of like a Detective Pikachu style game, a mystery dungeon style game, something like that could get announced as well at this presentation. As a matter of fact, I think there's a pretty high chance we get something. I know the Nintendo Switch has had a decent amount. They've had a Mystery Dungeon remake or remaster on the Switch. They had the Pokemon Snap game. Definitely think we could see something. And lastly, to fill out my board here is pretty basic one, but I think Ishihara kicks us off with the presentation. Whether he goes into a lot of detail himself, who knows, but I think that he'll be sitting at his desk with his plushes behind him, and he'll give us a little bit of an intro to the Pokemon Day. I think that's nearly as much of a free space as a free space can be, but I still think that it's a fun one to throw in there just because I'm so used to seeing him, kick it off. I think he'll continue that, but this is my board. I think that some of the more likely ones to happen are going to be anything relating to the mobile apps that we have. So Cafe Remix, Pokemon Sleep, TCG Pocket, Pokemon Masters EX. I think we'll get at least some news on all of those. I think the Legends ZA trailer is about a given, and I do think that there's a high chance that we get some stuff on anime Pokemon Worlds. I think there's a high chance I get a bingo or two on this board. I think this is a pretty realistic one. I know people like to make the most insane ones that they can think of, but at the end of the day, I think this is a pretty solid board. I'm going to generate this and randomly sync it. So it's not going to be in this exact order for Thursday, but if you watch my video Thursday, I'll have the bingo board up there and I'll be filling stuff out as I get it correct, or maybe it doesn't show up. I won't fill it out. You'll be able to see how I did on my bingo board. But outside of that, like I said, you guys can come back on Thursday for another video of me talking about the Pokemon Presents and going through my predictions. And then you can see something on next Saturday. I'll try and keep it as minimal on the Pokemon talk as possible, but certainly want to highlight that at least a little bit after I've had a day or two to sit on it. But next week you can expect a new episode with probably some additional content outside of just Pokemon games. So with that being said, I'm going to pop off here a little early. I've got some things to do. I've got to eat dinner. I've got to go to an event. That's why I'm wearing kind of a nice little shirt here. So it's been great chatting on this again. I love predicting things and I love seeing if my predictions come true. So we'll be back on Thursday and you can catch any other of the Bork News Network episodes of the Bork Report on the YouTube channel. Please go take a look at some of those other ones. And outside of that, hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Peace out.